Ladies and gentlemen, the real world gives us horses, but the plaintiff is expecting us to maintain a unicorn. Cave of the Breezes is a cave touring company for a local attraction in the area known as Cave of the Breezes. All they do is give young cave explorers an opportunity to explore the cave and learn about its history. You'll learn today that the slide that occurred on April 30th, 2017 was so massive it covered 10 square miles, and it took 37 days to be cleared out by emergency services. Cave of the Breezes, again, is a cave touring company. They don't have drilling equipment on site for every conceivable emergency. They're not the National Guard or FEMA. And you'll also learn today from our expert, Kerry Dornberg, that heavy rainfall isn't a reliable predictor of landslides. And so a cave touring company doesn't have to close every single time it rains. Holding Cave of the Breezes to these expectations would be like comparing horses to unicorns. On April 30th, 2017, the Pit Bulls hockey team entered Cave of the Breezes, and they were given a brief safety speech from their tour guide, and they were told to stay together. Now, before the tour could begin, a landslide, without any warning, covered the entrance to the Cave of the Breezes, and the team was trapped inside. Now, once Bobby Daly, the owner of Cave of the Breezes, realized what happened, he immediately got in contact with 911 and emergency services, and he got a rescue group together. And they realized that this slide was so massive that they needed to get these boys out in time. And so Bobby Daly accepted the help of Howard Sent to use this new innovative technology that could offer hope of getting these boys out a lot sooner than by any other conventional means. And so on the third day of this cave-in, Howard Sent's machine is able to burrow through miles of dirt and debris and get to these boys at the entrance of the cave. And when it burrows down and finds these boys, all of them are together. And all of them are pulled out one by one to safety. Everyone else, besides Max Petunia, came out of the cave unharmed. And while we feel bad for Max Petunia and the injuries that he suffered, we are going to ask that you not decide this case based on sympathy. Because the only question here today is whether Cave of the Breezes is legally responsible for what happened to Max Petunia. Now, plaintiff wants you to believe that this case is about foreseeability. But what they won't tell you is that the U.S. Geological Service never issued a warning for Cave of the Breezes around when this slide occurred. And a survey of the cave in 2016, the year before the slide, didn't reveal any increased risk for a landslide. What this case is really about is two things. One, Cave of the Breezes made life-saving decisions. And two, Max Petunia assumed the risk of his injuries. So as to my first point, that Cave of the Breezes made life-saving decisions. Bobby Daly I expect Max Petunia will tell you that before the landslide occurred, he was told by the tour guide to stay together, and that his team followed those instructions after the landslide because they were told that they needed to stay together in the event of an emergency. Bobby Daly you'll also get to meet Bobby Daly, and he will tell you about what happened when he found out that the landslide was covering Cave of the Breezes. He immediately called 911 and got an emergency plan in place. And he allowed Howard Sent to come onto his property and use this innovative technology to get all of these boys out. Because Bobby Daly knew that he didn't have time to clear this landslide through conventional means on his own. As to my second point, that Max Petunia assumed the risk of his injuries. The evidence will show that Max Petunia knew that cave exploration was inherently dangerous. I expect that he'll say that he knew of a landslide that occurred at Cave of the Breezes 50 years ago, and that it was tragic. People died. And I expect that he'll also tell you that he was given a waiver by Cave of the Breezes a month before the caving trip. And in that waiver, it specifically mentions the risk of landslides. And it mentions the risk of possibly getting hurt in this cave. And I expect he'll say either he signed it or his parents signed it, but either way, he was given this waiver. And I expect he will also say that he knew it was heavily raining the day before and the day of. And the caving trip was never canceled, and they all went into the cave anyway. I'm going to ask you to remember these 2 points throughout this trial. And at the end of this trial, my co-counsel, Connor McElroy, is going to come up here and ask that you find Cave of the Breezes not liable. The only just verdict in this case. Thank you.
All right.
Hi, Max. Good morning. I'm just going to ask you a few questions. First, I want to ask you a little bit about some of the stuff that Cave of the Breezes did a little bit before the landslide and then after. So when you got to Cave of the Breezes, you were given instructions, right?
Yeah, those instructions that Cindy sort of was falling over. Yeah.
Okay, but you remembered, even if she was stumbling through her words, you were able to remember to stay together, right?
Yeah, that was the main instruction that she said, was in the event of emergency to stick together.
And when you guys were trapped in the cave, that's what your coach had everybody do, right? Stay together?
Yeah, when we were looking for food, our coach reminded us to stay together.
Okay. And so on the third day, you guys saw the robot, right?
Yeah, we were so happy that the robot was able to, we thought it was going to save us.
And you were all together when the robot was burrowed through the cave, right?
Yeah, we were all sort of in the same place.
And all of you were brought out one by one.
Yep, everybody sort of got in the robot one at a time.
And everybody else but you were injured. I mean, everybody else where you came out unharmed.
Objection, Your Honor.
On what grounds?
This witness can't testify as to injuries that may or may not have been experienced by his teammates, not lack of personal knowledge.
Does the defense have a good faith basis to believe that the plaintiff has personal knowledge as to the injuries of the other teammates?
Yes, Your Honor. In Mr. Petunia's prior sworn statements, he's never mentioned any other injuries sustained by his teammates or his coach, and he's certainly not joined with any other plaintiffs in this case. So I think it's a fair assumption that he was the only one.
Well, whether or not anyone else has filed a claim against your client is certainly not within the purview of this trial. That being said, is it your anticipation that this witness will testify that everyone else was fine?
Yes.
All right. Overruled.
I'm sorry. So after the robot came, sorry, I lost my place. Everybody else made it out of the cave uninjured, right?
Well, nobody else had a broken arm or broken leg. That's true, but I think everybody was suffering from the effects of not having food or water for 3 days.
And did you know it took 37 days to clear out the Cave of the Breezes?
I had no idea. I mean,
Your Honor, permission to read a stipulation to the jury?
May.
It's stipulation number 6, counsel. It took 37 days to clear out Cave of the Breezes. And you got out on day 3 of the cave-in, right?
yeah, what they told us was day 3. It certainly felt like a lot longer. Kind of felt like 37 days. But, you know.
Okay, and now I just want to talk about what you knew before you went into the cave. You knew cave exploration could be dangerous, right?
Sure, but I trusted that Cave of the Breezes would do their job.
And you also knew 50 years ago that Cave of the Breezes had a very drastic cave-in, right?
Yeah, and I figured that, given that was so long ago, that surely the cave made some type of change.
But you know that people died in that cave-in, right?
Yeah, and that's why I figured that that Cave of the Breezes must have learned from that lesson and made some changes.
Your Honor, and you were also given a waiver to sign before you entered Cave of the Breezes.
Yeah, our coach handed out these waivers. We all had to sign them, or some of us were underage, so our parents had to sign them.
Your Honor, permission to first witness.
You may.
Do you recognize what I just handed you?
Yeah, this looks just like the waiver that was given to us, aside from my mom's signature not being on it, but just the same.
Your Honor, permission to. I offer Exhibit A into evidence. It's Cave of the Breezes waiver that they give to all of their patrons. It's previously been stipulated as authentic by both parties.
All right, Counselor, any objection?
Objection, hearsay.
All right, Counselor, I hear you on the hearsay objection.
Your Honor, it's already been stipulated as an authentic record of Cave of the Breezes, so it's a business record of Cave of the Breezes.
How do we get from stipulated authentic to business record exception?
Well, Your Honor, it's already been stipulated that the waiver is what it purports to be, being Cave of the Breezes waiver that they give out. Cave of the Breezes is a business, and that's a record that they normally keep. But
All right. Counselor, anything else to add?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. It'll be entered as trial exhibit 1.
all right, Max. So I'm just going to go through a couple of these paragraphs with you. Under assumption of risks,
Yes.
it says, I understand that cave exploring, by its very nature, includes certain inherent risks that cannot be eliminated, regardless of the care taken to avoid injuries. Did I read that correctly?
Yes.
Okay. And the next sentence, some of these involve minor bumps and bruises, superficial injuries, and on rare occasions, broken bones. Right?
Yeah, looks like
Okay.
that's what it says.
Okay. And you knew it was raining heavily the day before, right?
Yeah, April 29th. It was raining pretty heavily,
And it was also raining the day of the landslide.
Yeah, when we got there it was raining, but, Cave of the Breezes was still open, so I figured that these people knew how to keep a cave safe.
And the trip wasn't canceled.
No, I mean, no, we didn't cancel it. Cave of the Breezes was open that day.
Nothing further.
All right.
Redirect, Your Honor.
Good morning. Could you just introduce yourself to the jury for?
My name is Bobby Daly.
And Bobby, what do you do for work?
I'm the owner of Cave of the Breeze Exploration.
Could you explain what Cave of the Breezes exploration is?
So the Cave of the Breeze Exploration is a company where we work with people who want to go cave exploring in Cave of the Breeze, and we give them a guided tour of the cave.
Okay, and how did you come about owning Cave of the Breezes expeditions?
Well, I heard from a friend of mine who is friends with the past owners of Cave of the Breeze, and they wanted to retire. So I was interested in the business. It sounded like a lot of fun, so I bought the business from them.
And how long ago was that?
It's been a little while.
So, as the owner of Cave of the Breezes, what are your responsibilities?
So I do more of the back of the house kind of operations, and then I have Chase Quinn who runs like the front end of the business.
All right. You said back of the house. Could you explain to the jury what you mean by that?
Means I do the business model, so the marketing, the paychecks, payroll, like stuff. More not dealing so much with the customers, but more the business side because I like business.
Okay. And you mentioned Chase Quinn does the front of the house type work. What do you mean by front of the house?
So front of the house means training the guides, making sure the guides are doing their jobs correctly, writing the safety procedures for it, and just running the cave operation specifically.
How long has Chase Quinn been in that position?
He's been working for Cave of the Breeze for 25 years. He's one of the leading cave tour guides, so he's a pretty smart guy.
Okay. Now, Bobby, Miss McGrade and Miss Page have discussed about how this landslide was foreseeable today. How often do landslides happen at Cave of the Breezes?
They've never happened on my watch. You know, they don't really happen very often at all. I heard about one like 50 years ago, but that was a really long time ago.
Okay. So, where were you on the day of the landslide?
I was at the business. I'm usually at the cave every day because it's my business, so I like to keep an eye on everything.
So, could you tell us a little bit about what happened from your perspective?
So I was outside of the cave before it happened, and I was just outside doing some work, and all of a sudden Cindy comes out saying that she forgot her emergency plaque, so she was going to go get it and then go back inside with the tour. And then out of nowhere you hear this, like, it started off as like a low rumble, and then all of a sudden there was just this huge pile of mud in front of the cave. Like, it happened in a blink of an eye, and the whole team was trapped in the cave, and there was just like tons, there was mud everywhere.
Okay, so when you saw this landslide, what was the first thing you did?
First thing I did was I called 911 because we were going to need backup and we were going to need help from professionals. And I also told Chase Quinn to do a head count to see how many people were in the cave.
Okay. And after you got that head count, what was your next step?
Well, we had to figure out how to get everybody, all the hockey team, out of the cave. So we were trying to figure it out, and then Howard Stent came along.
So, who's Howard Stent? Just in case the jury doesn't know.
So Howard Stent is this tech billionaire guy, and he heard about the landslide, and he came by and showed us this technology that he made, that it was pretty much like a drill, and that could drill through the mud, but it was also a pod. It was a rescue pod that someone could strap themselves in, and then like an elevator just bring them out of the cave.
Okay. So did Howard Scent actually use that machine in this case?
Yeah, we had to get them out as soon as possible because they didn't have enough food and water, so to last a long time. So we had to do it quickly, and this seemed like the best idea to get them out of the cave and to save people's lives.
Okay, and now so Max Petuni's attorneys said that you ignored signs of a landslide. Could you tell the jury what signs you what signs of a landslide would you need to look for as a cave owner?
Objection, Your Honor.
Come on.
Lack of knowledge as to the causes of landslides. This witness is not an expert.
So, improper expert opinion?
Yes.
Counselor?
Well, Your Honor, I was asking Ms. Daly in the capacity as a cave owner if there are any signs that she should be aware of as a business owner in order to make proper safety decisions.
Why would she be qualified, even if she owns a cave, why is she qualified to testify about what the signs of a landslide are?
Your Honor, if allowed to testify, this witness will say that before this landslide occurred, when Ms. Daly acquired the business, she was informed by her insurance company that there are a number of signs to look out for a landslide, and to obviously make note of these signs in order to make sure that the business can be run safely and that she's not opening herself up to liability.
Okay, so she's not offering any opinion of her own. She's only offering what the insurance company.
Yes, she's offering what she was told by the insurance company in the steps she took based on that information.
Anything else?
No, Your Honor.
Well, in that case, why isn't it hearsay?
Your Honor, this would not be hearsay because it establishes notice for Miss Daly about the signs of a landslide. We care that she was aware of these signs and took steps to
Are you saying that what the insurance company told her put her on notice that a landslide would occur?
No. Sorry, Your Honor. It would put her on notice about things that she would need to know about as a business owner.
So this has more to go to the effect on the listener, that the listener then looked for these signs on a regular basis?
Yes, Your Honor. Yes.
All right, overruled.
Ms. Daly, as a cave business owner, what types of things would you look for to ensure that the business was being run safely?
Well, one of the things I did before I opened the business was I made sure that I got the proper insurance, and the insurance company told me that I had to make sure when I looked around the cave to see if there was any uprooted trees, because uprooted trees could be a potential hazard, and I didn't see any uprooted trees around the cave.
You said you didn't see any uprooted trees, but some of plaintiff's experts have already said that you mentioned downed trees.
So I did mention down trees, but the trees fell down because of the snow was too heavy on the branches, which caused the trees to fall down. There wasn't any signs of the ground changing, like the roots were still in the ground, so I didn't think there was any change in the land when the trees had fallen down.
Okay, and did you do anything else to make sure that the cave was safe to go in?
I observed around the cave, the property around the cave, to see if there was any other signs of land movement. I live near the cave, so I would walk my dogs around the cave just to make sure everything was safe.
What about any personnel going out to the site to check it?
We did have survey companies come and survey the land so we could get an expert opinion to whether or not there was any changes in the land.
Okay, and what did those surveys tell you?
They told us that we had no additional risks for any landslide, that we had no potential for a landslide.
Okay, and when was the last time you had one of those surveys done?
We had it sometime in 2016. I don't remember exactly when, but it was sometime in 2016.
Okay, so now I just want to talk about the decisions you and your company made right before and right after the landslide. So, what kinds of instructions do your employees give to people wanting to go on a cave tour?
So they give them some basic like safety instructions about like wearing helmets, making sure before you remove like a hand or a leg that you make sure that you have 3 points of contact to the wall if you're climbing it. And then we also said in case of emergency to stay put and stay together.
So, are all of these instructions part of the training process for your employees?
Yes, Chase makes sure that all of the safety guides know what the safety instructions should be, and he sometimes listens to some of the safety instructions to make sure that they're doing it correctly.
Now, you mentioned that your employees are instructed to give an instruction about staying together in the event of an emergency. Do you know why that's important?
Yeah, so that's extremely important because in a case of emergency like a cave-in, if they stay together and not try to find their own way out, then we know exactly where they are when we came to rescue them. Like in this landslide, they stayed exactly at the entrance of the cave so we could send the robot down and go rescue them. If they decided to go try and like find their own way out, we wouldn't have been able to use the rescue pod because it was unmanned, so we couldn't go and find them. And another reason why we tell them to stay together and to stay put is because the cave was really dark because all the light source was covered by the mud, so they could easily get hurt by trying to walk around the cave with no light. They could have broken a limb, they could have cut themselves, and that could have turned a bad situation to really bad very quickly. So we tell them all to stay put.
Okay, and so you just talked a little bit about how when the rescue pod came, everybody was together. Whose rescue pod was that again?
Howard Stent's rescue pod.
And whose decision was it to let Howard Stent use this machine?
It was my decision because at the time it was the best way to get the hockey team out of the cave alive. You know, we didn't want anyone to die in this situation, so we had a time crunch, and that was the best option available at the time.
You said there was a time crunch. How long did it take for the rescue team to get to the hockey team?
It's 3 days, so we did it pretty fast.
You said pretty fast. How long did it take to clean up this landslide?
It took 37 days, so there's no way that the hockey team could have lasted the 37 days. So we did it fast to ensure that everyone's alive. So 3 days is pretty good. That was pretty excellent on our part to only take 3 days. It's like a weekend.
Okay, so now I just want to talk to you about what your customers know before they go into your cave for a tour.
Objection, lack of foundation,
All right.
and calls for speculation.
Counselor?
I'll rephrase, Your Honor.
Okay.
So I just want to talk to you a little bit about the information you give your customers. Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
You may.
I just handed you trial exhibit 1. Do you recognize what that is?
Yeah, it's our waiver that we have everyone who comes into the cave sign.
What kind of things are in this waiver if we're talking about possible injuries?
So the possible injuries is minor injuries is bumps, bruises, and cuts, but also major injuries like broken bones and torn ligaments.
Does this waiver mention the possibility of natural disasters?
Yeah, on the yeah, it mentions about cave-ins and how there could be natural disasters.
So it specifically mentions cave-ins?
Yeah, it says cave-ins, landslides, or other events.
Okay, nothing further, Your Honor.
All right.